I never imagined that the end of my marriage would come because of a movie night. But looking back, that quiet remark was the last crack in a foundation that had been crumbling for years. It was a Friday evening in October, colder than usual for time of year. Sarah and I were watching one of those action-packed thrillers she liked, the kind with a lead actor who had an impossible set of skills and even more unrealistic abs. We'd ordered Thai food, and I was halfway through my pad Thai when she leaned over and said it. "Why can't you be more like him?" The comment hit me like a bullet, cutting through the action on screen and landing straight in my chest. 15 years of marriage, and this was the point we'd reached. Who? I asked, my fork halfway in my mouth. The guy who just killed 16 people with a ballpoint pen? She rolled her eyes. No, Michael, not like that. Then who? She hesitated, took a sip of her wine, and then replied, just someone who actually knows what he's doing. The food in my mouth felt like sawdust. I put my container down and paused the movie. What does that mean? Nothing. Forget it. Just play the movie. But I wouldn't let it go. She wouldn't look at me, and I asked again, I want to know what you meant by that. She sighed. One of those heavy sighs that made me feel like the most exhausting person on the planet. It's just, you've been stuck in the same job for 10 years. We haven't taken a real vacation in 3. And we're still in the starter home, she said, waving around the living room. The same living room I painted last summer while she was at her sister's in Phoenix. I thought we were saving for retirement. I blinked, trying to make sense of what she was saying. For a future, she shot back, her voice colder. One where we finally travel when we're too old to enjoy it. One where you finally take a risk when you're 60. I couldn't believe it. This woman, the one who had once loved my careful planning, my steady approach to life, was now looking at me like I was some sort of failure. Is there someone else? I asked, the question burning in my throat. Just play the movie, Michael. But I knew. In that moment, I knew. I stood up and muttered, I'm going for a drive. Of course you are, she said, grabbing the remote. Run away instead of talking. I grabbed my jacket, slipped on my shoes, and left the house. I drove aimlessly around the neighborhood, past the park where we used to walk our dog before he passed away, past elementary school where we once discussed sending our kids before we decided we weren't going to have any. I realized something had shifted in me, not just in that moment, but over the past few months. The way she was always on her phone, the late work dinners, the new clothes, and that subtle cologne scent that wasn't mine. I wasn't stupid. I just hadn't wanted to see it. I pulled into the driveway 3 hours later. The house was dark, except for the light in our bedroom. I sat in the car staring at the front door with its fall wreath, a small token from Sarah's frequent Target runs. But instead of walking inside, I turned the engine back on and drove to a hotel. I checked in, threw my overnight bag on the bed, and lay on the stiff mattress. I pulled out my phone. No text from Sarah asking where I was. No missed calls. Nothing. 15 years together, and she couldn't even pretend to care. The next morning, I went to work early. I'm a project manager at a construction company. Nothing glamorous, but steady, with good benefits and a solid 401k, all the things Sarah used to appreciate before they became symbols of my mediocrity. Around lunchtime, my phone buzzed. Where are you? I waited an hour before responding. At work. You didn't come home last night. I stared at the message. No concern. No, you okay? Just a statement. No, I didn't. 3 dots appeared on the screen, then disappeared, then appeared again. We should talk when you get home. I didn't respond. Instead, I called Derek, a buddy who had gone through a nasty divorce 3 years ago. Can I crash at your place for a few days? I asked. Sure, man. Everything okay? No, but it will be. That afternoon, I left work early and went to the bank. Sarah and I had 3 accounts. Her personal, mine, and our joint account where we put money for bills and share expenses. I withdrew exactly half of the joint account and deposited it into my own. I didn't take a penny more. Then I drove home, knowing Sarah would still be at work. I packed my things carefully. Clothes, toiletries, important documents. I left our wedding album on the shelf. But as I zipped up my suitcase, I noticed her laptop open on the desk in the office. I'm not proud of what I did next. But when you're standing on the edge of a cliff, sometimes you need to know if you're being pushed. I opened her email, and there it was. Messages between her and someone named James. Dozens of them. They went back months. Miss you already. One read. Last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you again. Michael's going to that conference next month. 3 whole days. I know it's complicated, but we'll figure it out. You deserve to be happy, Sarah. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through the messages. James, from her marketing department. The James she casually mentioned a few times. The James who apparently knew what he was doing. I took photos of several emails on my phone, closed her laptop, and gathered the evidence. As I loaded my bags into the car, our neighbor Bill waved from across the street. Taking a trip, Michael? Something like that, I said, forcing a smile. At Derek's place, I sat up on his pull-out couch, finally checking my phone. There were 3 missed calls from Sarah and a text. Where are you? We need to talk. I'm sorry about last night. Sorry about what? The comment? The affair being exposed? I didn't respond. The next day, Saturday, Sarah called again. I let it go to voicemail. Mitchie, Elvis, this is ridiculous. Please come home so we can talk about this like adults. I don't know why you're being so dramatic. Dramatic? Like discovering my wife's affair was just me being theatrical. I spent the day helping Derek install new kitchen cabinets, keeping busy with measurements and ensuring everything was level. The work kept my mind occupied, and afterward we ordered pizza, drank beers, and watched a game. Derek didn't ask me anything, and I appreciated that. He didn't push for details, giving me space. Sunday morning, Sarah texted again. I'm with my mother's for the day. Please be home when I get back so we can fix this. Fix this, as though it were something small like a leaky faucet or a broken appliance. I told Derek I needed to go back home. He offered come with me, but I insisted I needed to do it alone. When I pulled into the driveway, our house looked the same. Same shrubs, same crack in the driveway I'd been meaning to repair. I walked through the room slowly, mentally cataloging the life we'd built over the last 15 years, now reduced to furniture and appliances. I gathered a few more items I'd forgotten, my winter coat, some books, my father's watch from the safe. Then, without planning it, I called a locksmith. I need a consultation about changing my locks. I told him. When he arrived, I explained I was separating from my wife and needed to secure the house. The locksmith, an older man with salt and pepper hair, gave me a knowing nod. This happens more than you'd think, he said. He suggested installing a keypad lock that I could control remotely. I could give Sarah a temporary code while I was gone and change it when necessary. It was a cleaner, more legally sound approach. While the locksmith worked, I wrote a note to Sarah and left it on the kitchen table. I know about James. I've known something was wrong for months, but I didn't want to believe it. I'm taking some time away to think. The door code is 5428. I'll be in touch about next steps. Michael, as I drove away, my phone rang. It was Sarah. I declined the call. A few minutes later, a text came through. What do you mean you know about James? He's just a co-worker. I almost laughed at her persistence in sticking to the lie. I drove back to Derek's feeling a strange calm, like I had finally done what needed to be done. By 7 p.m., my phone was blowing up with texts and calls from Sarah. I can't believe you're doing this. You're overreacting. Answer your damn phone. I turned it off and let her panic. The next morning, I called my company's HR department and took a week off. Then I drove to a colleague's cabin in the mountains, 3 hours from the city, with no internet and only spotty cell service. Perfect. I turned my phone on once I arrived. There were 23 missed calls, voicemails from Sarah, her mother, and even her sister in Phoenix, plus a string of texts and emails ranging from furious to tearful. The most recent message from Sarah read, "Fine. I'm staying with James. Happy now? Is this what you wanted?" I typed a response, deleted it, and typed again. Finally, I decided on, I didn't want any of this. You made your choice long before I left. 3 days in the mountains gave me clarity. I hiked during the day, built fires in the evening, and slept better than I had in months. By Thursday, I called a lawyer and scheduled an appointment for the following week. I also texted Sarah, "I'll be back on Saturday. If you want to pick up anything from the house, I suggest you do it before then. I'll be filing for divorce." Her response was quick. "We need to talk face to face." I replied, "No, we don't. Not yet." Her next message read, "I made a mistake, Michael. A terrible mistake. But 15 years of marriage deserves more than this." I stared at the screen for a long time. I thought about everything she'd done, everything she'd thrown away, and typed, "You threw away 15 years, not me. I'll be in touch through my lawyer." When I returned to the house on Saturday, it looked like a tornado had hit. Drawers were left open, closets emptied in haste. She'd taken most of her clothes, her jewelry, her books, and oddly, the TV, the good kitchen knives I bought 2 Christmases ago, and all the framed photos, except our wedding portrait, which now lay shattered on the floor. Message received. I cleaned up the glass and hung the empty frames back on the wall. Reminders of the spaces that would need to be filled in my new life. I changed the door code immediately. The next months blurred together. Legal meetings, property negotiations, and awkward conversations with friends who had never seen this coming. Sarah fought the divorce at first, claiming it was just a fling and that I was overreacting. Then she shifted tactics and demanded half of my 401k, the house, even my car. Her lawyer sent threatening letters about abandonment because I'd left. My lawyer countered with the evidence. Her affair, her planning to use my business trips to meet James. Infidelity didn't change the property division laws, but it did shift the narrative in mediation. After 9 long months, we reached a settlement. The house was sold, and the proceeds split according to our contributions. We divided the retirement accounts based on when they were earned. She kept her car, I kept mine. It wasn't about winning everything. It was about ending things fairly and maintaining my dignity. James, I heard through mutual friends, had moved on to someone else. Apparently, he was good at beginnings, but not so much with follow-through. 18 months later, I was sitting in my new condo, smaller than our house, but all mine, watching a movie alone when my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "I miss you. I made a terrible mistake. Can we talk?" I looked around at my peaceful home, thought about the promotion I'd received, the trip to Italy I'd booked for the next month, and the woman I was dating, who appreciated stability and called it sexy, not boring. I didn't respond to her text. Some doors are meant to stay closed.